Hey all, Pixel here, Improbable Garage, and we're back on the Cyberpunk Cube, and today we're changing out at least this front bumper for something a little bit more interesting. So, getting rid of the bumpers is always part of the plan, that's why I didn't paint them, but in particular also, if you look at the front of the Cube, it's got a fat lip is the only way I can think of describing it. The whole car is the vertical of the lights, and then it kicks out as it gets lower in a really sort of low and dumpy way. The rear is even worse for it. I describe it as the car's having a fat ass. Like, you can see how much the bumper sticks out, but just in a very strange sort of way, where you've got the plane of the tail lights and then very droopy sort of looking bumper, at least to me. So we're going to pull this bumper cover off, see exactly what we've got behind it, and then figure out a game plan. Alright, so that's what we're left with. Slightly bummed. I was hoping it had a steel bumper bar because that would have made my life easier. But unfortunately it's aluminum, but we can live with that. We'll figure it out. In here, a little crunchy in places, but this isn't structural. It's unpleasant, but it's not structural. I never got around to putting the wheel well liner on that side. But there's one on this side that's going to have to get trimmed back some. Windshield washer tank here, that's fine. I can figure out a way to integrate that into my design like it belongs there. These are air shields to help direct air into the radiator. We'll figure out something with regards to that. And then engine in there. Wow, that looks like it's got a newer compressor on it. Cool. It'd be smarter to have that walled off, but it also looks cool, so who knows what I'm gonna do there. It's my dinky little horn. That's probably my crash sensor for the airbag, so we're going to leave that the hell alone. There should be some more in here somewhere. We've got fog light wiring. This side had 4 bolts, that had 2 because this side also had the place where the tow hook pulls in. So this is crash structure. You see how this is got indenting in it? That's designed to crumple in an accident, which is actually good because I was afraid that would be built into a bumper bar and then I'd have to try and rebuild it myself, but I won't have to worry about that. This is a nice beefy piece of aluminum, so I might end up trying to figure out how to integrate that back in again, but we don't know. I don't know. We'll figure that out as we get to it. If not, I can make a plate that picks up these that a new bar can wrap around for. So yeah, that's what we're left with. The other piece of under tray that's under here is secure, so I don't have to worry about that. There was a separate piece at the bottom of the bumper that filled in this gap, and then like I said, I'm gonna have to trim that wheel well liner. I'm gonna have to put this wheel well liner in and trim that. There's a bit of the fender now exposed with ugly tab. I'm gonna take this tab off. This little bit of the fender I'll repaint to cover the silver up. But yeah, this is all done more or less what I expected to find under here. Wasn't entirely sure, but this is about what I expected. These are not the long-term plan headlights, but I'm not doing that part right this moment. So we're gonna have to kind of design around these and then possibly change the design later or whatever. But the general idea here is I want to build out a structure here and I want to tuck it much closer. Like if you look, the headlight and this are basically on the same plane. So I want to come out like the thickness of my material, and like suck in the front of this by several inches, just because it'll change the shape of the vehicle in the front. It'll also make it look more compact and a little less sort of fat-lipped. But what, you might be asking, am I planning to use to build this out? This is the bottom of the old rear seat. You may remember in the other videos about the seats, I talked about how much effing steel is in this thing. And when I got to looking at it, discounting all the thinner bars the main structure of it actually looks pretty cool. Like you've got this beefy bar across the bottom, a top hoop, a mid line. I'm not entirely sure I like this one here, but then you've also got this interestingly bent structure here that's very reminiscent to me of like the crash bars on the front of police cars. So I like this basic shape, and if I can figure out a good way to get it integrated, it's going to be pretty dang strong actually, and it's going to have a really interesting look that I don't have to fabricate from scratch. Like I wouldn't be able to replicate. I think I'm going to cut this wing off here, but this main bar here, this piece wouldn't be something that would be very hard to fabricate from scratch, and bending up this hoop shape would be difficult. So I think what I'm going to do is come in here and hack off most of this thin steel framing here, and then either prop this up on wood or jack it up or something to get it sort of in place. Because I need to get the bottom bar even with the bottom of the radiator support, because I don't want this to stick down as further than that. I definitely don't want it to stick down further than this original bumper did. So yeah, I'm going to get the angle grinder and I'm going to get to chopping on this thing. All right, so what do we think? I think we're on the right track. That is too busy right now. There's too much shit going on there in terms of all the little odds and ends, but that overall shape I do really like. And it seems like it hits, it's a little shifted to the right now, but overall, and it's obviously not entirely level either, but yeah, I think that can work. I left this in because I wasn't entirely sure whether I wanted to take it out or not, and now that I've seen it like this, I'm more confident that I do want to take it out. Same with like this wing here. I think that's going to get lopped off, but I think I'm going to figure out a way to sort of connect this, just like maybe put a plate, maybe with some rubber on it or something across there. These have got to get cut off at the bottom. Like I need to remove a lot of that little fiddly shit. I think the center bar is going to stay. That bar is obviously going to stay, but overall, yeah, I think that works. I like that. This is what I was hoping. Like when I saw that shape, I was like, I think that could work for that. And the answer is, yeah, I think I'm right. I think that could work for that. I think, trying to figure out how to build out, because now my bumper bar is going to pass right through the middle of all of that. I don't want to depend on this alone, because this isn't a crash structure. It's not even remotely a crash structure. But I'm not sure the best way to handle that. This can't really come up more because it's going to start intruding on the headlights too much. I don't want it to go down more because I don't want it to, God, if this catches the ground, it's just going to crush the radiator support. So, I'm not entirely sure the best solution for that. Maybe if I bring the bar down, or maybe I'll bring the bar up behind this more, but paint it black so that it kind of disappears a little bit. But overall, that totally works. I'm not stopping it here. I'm going to extend the structure out. This is the front upper seat back that I think I might be able to use. Again, get rid of this, get rid of this, get rid of all of this inner structure here, so it's just the outer hoop. But then this is an interesting shape here for bringing it around the corner. Just lop it off and secure that there. That might work. Like, the whole reason I'm doing this, yeah, these seats just have so many interesting shapes in them, and it's all really beefy steel. So it seemed logical to at least try this first before I just tossed it all and I think it's going to work, at least some of it. All right, I've been staring at this for a while, and I think the conclusion I've come to is this needs to either be big enough to cover the headlights, or it needs to be completely below them. Like, it's either or. It can't be halfway. It just looks wrong. So I think where I'm going to have come down on is I'm going to chop out the end there. I can chop the middle there, and bring the top down until that upper piece is touching that lower piece. So that's one continuous piece that wraps around, comes up, and wraps in. So that's going to shrink the center section down. That's going to put that bar across the middle there much more in line with the crash structure. And then I think I'm going to take that whoop-de-doo out of the end. I think I'm going to shrink this whole thing in this way by basically just cutting that little cutout there and cutting enough out of the horizontal to just bring that whole corner in, because that doesn't make sense why it does that. So I think that it's going to end up coming up, kicking in, going across, kicking down, and then going down for the center piece. And these two are going to be just one contiguous bit there. And then the wraparounds may get made out of that. They may not, haven't gotten that far yet, but I think that will give me a better overall structure. I think that will shrink this to where it looks right and beef it up at the same time, because it'll close up some of that opening, it'll close up some of that opening, it'll remove this, it'll make these openings smaller, remove that gap there, and just generally tighten everything up. And I think that will end up looking pretty darn good. Alrighty, whew. That was a lot more work than anticipated. As I'm sure you could tell from the time lapse, when I cut this and dropped it, I realized that these were wider than these, and it wasn't a problem when it was higher, but it was really obvious when it was lower. You can see by the fact that these bolt holes used to be in a row how far in it had to go. But yeah, I shortened the center to pull these in so that this is a continuous line and this is a continuous line to make that shape work. And then obviously, like I said, cut these and tucked them over. I was mistaken. I thought I could just cut the whoop-de-doo out and have enough material, but I had to put in a little material from what I cut out elsewhere to fill this in and that. And they're not perfect because of the alignments of stuff, but they're pretty darn good. I'm really happy with that shape. It's either going to be here or maybe a little bit lower, but probably here. I think I actually kind of like here. It's higher than I'd planned. It's sitting on a bolt right now, and you can see it's up a little bit. Also, I found out that these are not even with each other. That one's much further in without being crunched than this one is. So I'll have to account for that in my design and measure off of other things to make sure, because right now that side's sucked in. Not a lot more, but a little bit more. It's kind of noticeable. And then I did a very quick hack apart of this so that I could, oops, kind of pre-fit here. Obviously, this needs a ton more work, including removing that bar, but this is going to get, I think, put in there. I'm liking how this is coming out. It's taken longer than expected because of having to cut this all up and reshape it, but I'm really liking how it's going to come out. It's really, I like this. This looks beefy as hell. It looks that right kind of weird too, where it's kind of a police bar, but it's kind of not, and it's not like, it's not recognizable that I like took something off of a, you know, Forerunner or something and bolted it on here. It's definitely a like its own weird shape. I kind of like this here. There was another one here, So I may fill in like this part of it with more verticals. I was talking with my partner about how far the tank sticks out over there, and I can't really do much about it, but those cages that I cut off, I think I can build basically like into here on that side, a little cage that comes out that completely covers that and fills it in to take care of that. And then, yeah, I need to get a different, see if I can get a different piece to be my crossbar, because this is, if it was thinner in this dimension, life would be easier. It looks like what I'm probably going to have to do is notch this and the other side just a little bit so that I can tuck it back, but obviously different amounts on both sides. Maybe even just slice this so that I can bend this over and then weld it all to be strong again. And then I'll probably end up welding either a complete L across the top that this then sits in and gets welded to, or a couple pieces of it to help get them solidly tied together. But yeah, I'm liking that. I'm liking that. I would have liked to, it'd be great if I could do my headlights or my grill and stuff at the same time, so I could design it all together. But I can't. Yeah, I'm torn right now because this looks perfect right now because these kick up. Like it, I like how it tucks up into there a little. Whoops. But the future grill wasn't supposed to have that, so I might have to move this down slightly to get the plane of, because if I get the plane of this, even with the plane of the top of that, it'll work if I have a single height grill assembly across the top. And I need to, well, these stick out a little bit from the hood, so as long as this sticks out a little bit from them, it's about as far out as it needs to go. Anyway, I'm blathering, but I'm really liking that. I really like how that's coming together. So I think we're going to have to call it there for the night. I got to clean up the worst of my crap. Quick little update. I've been working on this in little fits and starts when I have a chance. There were some brackets under here that held the bumper cover. I've unbolted those and removed them. But a big thing is I've made a major change on my plans. I've been fitting this up and not liking things. And one of the big things I realized was I didn't like the top bar having that shape to it when I was planning to have a horizontal grill that didn't kick up. And then I realized I can just mount this way instead. Hopefully I get that pointed in the right direction. But I can basically do that instead. And I think I like that a lot better. And that'll make the sides make more sense because it'll be tucked up tighter. So that's what I'm going to be doing instead, flipping the whole thing over. I've already started making some cuts to that to accommodate it. And then I picked up this piece of steel. It's about a 1 inch by 2.5. That's going to be my replacement bumper bar. It's going to fit such that the top screws here are going through it near the bottom of it. So it's going to end up sort of up here. If I get it right, that this will basically sit on top of it more or less. I'm going to notch up in here and the ends to get this positioned exactly height-wise how I want on this. Once I get this on, I'm also going to, these little marks are the insides of this and that, because I'm going to cut this and kick the ends in the same way that that one was, just so that, because it's easier to modify this than it is to modify these to get these flat so that I can bolt that on flat. And because it's going to be sitting under this bar, it can intrude further this way, and this can still be tucked farther back. And like I was talking about before, this is going to get painted brightly and make it really obvious. This is going to get painted a dull color, like flat black, to make it kind of disappear a little bit. Because I don't want to draw attention to this, but I definitely want there to be a proper bumper bar across here, just for safety's sake. Because this isn't going to do much in a crash. As cool as it looks, it's a seat frame when it comes down to it, so it's not going to help much in a crash. So I want that proper, not only just the bar across, but also having the two frame rails tied together properly. All right, and there's the bumper bar. There was only one bolt up here, so that's been drilled, and the hole's been drilled on the other side to give me access. The original bumper bolts or nuts were these big ones, but I'm swapping them out for these with a much smaller shoulder because it's not going to pull through the steel anywhere near as likely as it is to pull through the aluminum. These are actually off the seats. I recovered all the hardware I could when I took the seats apart. On this side, I've got one here. This one, my initial hole was offline, and then somehow, even though I drilled this one through, it looks like what happened was the drill jumped from the little hole from there to the little hole there when I was drilling out this side, and I didn't notice until it was far too late. So I'm going to have to come in with a grinder or something to open up some more material so that I can put a nut on that one. But for now, for this stage, it's more than solid with the two. It's going to eventually get like on this side it's going to get a big flange with two holes in it that these can bolt to. It's going to be welded to that, and on this side it's going to get a flange obviously with one hole in it. So now that I finally have something secure here, I've measured it this way and it's the same distance out, and if I measure from the bottoms of the headlamps, it's just a little over 3, just a little over 3. So it is, this is level relative to the headlamps, and it's a little high on this side relative to the hood, but actually if I look at the hood's down a bit on this side. Not too worried. And if the front end's a little bit wonky, I don't notice till the end, I'll call it battle damage and move on with my life. So, this. Now I want this in as far as I can get it, which is going to involve cutting away here and here, because I need to get it like here at the highest point of this. It might slide all the way back or it might not, but as I bring it forward, because there's a curve back here, it lifts the whole thing up. So by the time I get to here, it's hitting the headlights over here and over here, and I could trim those back, but the problem is in here, so I'm gonna fix it in there. So what I think I'm gonna do is extend a straight line off on both sides. Where the heck did I just put this? Welcome to my superpower. There we go. So that is currently at the highest point, and this needs to go in by 2.5 inches. So yeah, I gotta come in straight 2.5 inches here, and then this is gonna get, once this will push back where I want it to be, it's gonna get welded straight to this bar. But I gotta fix that, and I also still have to grind off all the little nubbies from all the various bits of things I cut off of this. And there we are. It is mounted. It's most of its wobble is the it wobbling on these end plates, as well as the end plates wobbling a little bit. But it's welded to this pretty good and secure. I am going to come back in at some point, and there's going to be more gusseting and reinforcing over here. I'm going to fill this in a little over here so it's a little cleaner, because I thought it was going to go way back further than it did. And I have the little, somewhere in this pile of crap is all the little bits that I cut out of there that I can't, there's one. Like, I can come back in if I want to and, you know, cut and fit that back in there or do something else. But for right now, I wanted to get it on there good. These plates here were actually sticking out this way and got cut off. but then I turned them and welded them this way, both because they're going to be a good reinforcement there, and also there's now a threaded hole here. I can put like a fog lamp or something there if I decide I want to later. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty damn good. If you look at it, it ends up looking a little wonky because the bottom of the core support is pushed up on that side. I measured multiple times from different reference points because I was a little unsure, but yeah, it's definitely that that's pushed up and not that this is wonked. So yeah, I can call that good enough. I need to now start working on the wings so that I get the whole thing wrapped around. Sorry, I think I'm going to start this side because I don't have to box that in. And just see where that gets me. All right, I'm very cold, so I have to be done for the night. But let me see what I've got. I'll keep kicking that same loud thing. So we saw the center, but I've got this whole side essentially this side's tacked together. I'm going to take it off to finish out the welding on this side because I can't get at the back. But I really, really love how that came together. So this is the top of the seat back. That sheet metal piece that I was trying to fit in here would have worked and fit if the headlight wasn't in. Like once I have the other grill in, it would have fit perfectly, but it didn't fit now. So instead, this is a piece of bar I bought. You saw I basically used this to bend it. It's got a series of kinks in the back, but I put that bend in it to get it around the corner, welded this on, welded that on, did that again here. This comes up a little bit to meet this. And then this was just a bracket that was, I think it was, yeah, it was here, I think, or on the other side, one or the other. But this was basically the butt part of one seat. A little bit of trimming, fitted in here. The center bar you saw I snagged off of the other one. So now it's got this great little cage containing the washer tank that actually like sticks out, which I like. I think that looks cool. And then this is good. And then I'm not entirely sure what's going to happen here, but I'm really liking that. I really like how that looks. It wraps around the way I want it to. It is just the slightest, bit proud of the body by like ½ an inch. And if that bothers me down the line, I can always bend it further in, but I think I'm going to like it like that. Yeah. So I'm really happy with how this is coming together. I was kind of paranoid that I was going to fuck it up, but no, I think that's looking good. Let's see. Like, all total, I think it might stick out as much as the original one did, but it's not going to look as much like it did. Like it sticks out too much. I do have to do some reinforcing on the boat. Anyway, I'm blathering because I'm cold, but I'm really happy with how that's come together, and I'm looking forward to figuring out the other side. This is not going to be an exact match of that side. I don't want it to be. I want it to be different over here, but I don't know exactly in what way I'm going to do that yet. So I will catch you all the next day. It's warm enough to work.